Gonna be recording the practice test, and you might want to, I don't know if you care about this, but we did change it 2.1 to 2.5. So it's sections 2.1, 2.3, 2.4, and 2.5. Like I said, I don't know if you care about that or not. But what I'm doing is we're giving you a chance to see the test before you have to take it. And a big part of this is you shouldn't need retakes when that happens. For goodness sake, we're handing you, it's got the same wording and everything on here. You really have to do a whole lot of nothing, to not do well. This is one of those tests that really usually brings up people's grades a lot, the 2.1 to 2.5. So make sure that you're staying with us, you're participating and getting involved. The more you talk through stuff, the more you'll remember. Away we go. So we've got in 1 and 2, always read these, by the way. Sometimes students get things wrong because they don't read the directions. In 1 and 2, find the domain and range of the relation and determine whether it is a function. So help me out. What's domain? X's. And you have to try to make the fancy brackets. They don't have to be perfect, but you have to try. You can't make parentheses. If you do that, I'll have to take some points off. Because this is, again, in math notation, hey, there's a number set coming. That's what that means. So it looks like we've got, if we put them in order, -3, 1, and 2. And somebody right now is like, see at home, I wrote the 1 down twice. Is that okay? No, because that means that you believe that 1 is different from 1, which it's not. It's just a list of numbers. That's all it is. Steve. You have to write. Oh, we decided we're not going to take off for that. It would be nice, but we're not going to take off if you don't put them from, called decreasing order, from smallest to biggest. Alrighty, how about range? What's range? So let's see, what do we have there? A -2, a 5, and a 7. Is this a function? No. What x value is trouble? Yep. 1 output, 2 outputs. No. Yes or no, is it? This one's a little tougher, right? From the graph. Okay, so take a look at it. Domain. Think x's. What x's are we using for this graph? Exactly. It's got arrows saying it's going to go left and right forever. Is this graph going to use all the y's? No way, no how. So you can do this kind of thing. But here's what you have to be careful with. On the tests, they're sneaky. They might go by 2s or 3s or something like that. So you better make sure that they're just going by 1s here. So our y's, the cutoff is what? Oh, and somebody already has given me the other part. We're pretty obviously above that, right? So y is greater than or equal to -1. I don't know about you, but I don't want to have to write down an infinite amount of ordered pairs. I can't. We can't. So for functions, we have to look at it a different way. Does anybody remember the name of the test when it's graphed? Excellent. Vertical line test. Does it pass or does it fail? It passes. Yeah. Draw your vertical lines anywhere on this graph. Hits in 1 point. So that one's good. So there's our testing you on domain, range, whether or not something's a function. Can we do that next week? Okay. Suppose f of x equals x squared plus 4x minus 7, and g of x equals the absolute value of the quantity x minus 3 plus 4. Find f of 4. What does that mean we're supposed to do? Plug in a 4, but there's a danger. Do you remember the danger? We only do math on one side. That's why. That's funky. Fancy function notation for y. So we don't put any values over there. We put them over here. And then it gives you another chance to prove to me that you truly do know the order of operations, because some of you messed up on that one on the last test. What are we supposed to do first? The exponents. And then we'll multiply, and then we won't forget to have our little minus 7 back here. 16 plus 16 is what? 32 minus 7? Boom, 25. And you don't need the y equals business. You can just put 25 up there. Because y equals isn't really what we should write. We should be writing f of 4 equals, but just put the answer over there and you'll be safe. Am I using that exact same equation to do number 4? No, I have a new one. I'm supposed to use g. What are we going to make sure we do right away so we don't accidentally do math over there? And then let's put in that little -2. Absolute value is like grouping symbols. Have to do that first. So what's -2 minus 3? -5. What's the absolute value of -5? 5. What's 5 plus 4? There we go. So big deal. Don't do any math on the side with the notation, with the f of x, the h of x, g of x, whatever it is they give you. Don't do math over there. Hey, we're good at this too. Slope. Find the slope of each line and show your work. How do we find slope? Okay, that's slope-intercept form. Slope, slope, find the slope. Average rate of change. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, well, let's see. This is x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2, if you really want to label. You know, don't have to. So -1 minus 6 over 6 minus a -3. And you can just use your calculator if you're worried you're going to mess up on negatives here. But -1 minus 6 is what? What is 6 minus a -3? And we know we have to simplify. Can we do anything with that one? 7's prime. The only two numbers that go into 7 are 1 and 7. That's it. So that is our slope. Piece of cake. 6 looks like something interesting may happen. Do you see why? Okay, so we're ready for something interesting. And there's the interesting. So the question is, what does that mean? Undefined. Now, we talked about this when we were doing slope earlier. I'm going to show you with the calculator. So if you get to the test and it happens, you get a little anxious. Oh, I suppose I better be writing that a little nicer there. There. Looked like the E disappeared when I was writing it quickly before. So you get to the test and you've totally forgotten if it's okay to have a 0 on top or if it's okay to have a 0 on the bottom. You get this and you say, all right, calculator. It yells at you. Error! You can't divide by 0. That's how you know it's undefined. Now, a 0 on the top, which we don't have, but if we did, it tells you, hey, that's just going to be 0. So, again, if you get just a little case of the jitters, try and use the graphing calculator or just a normal calculator if you have to figure out what you need. All right, still doing okay? 7. Rewrite the equation of the line so that it is in standard form with integer coefficients. Well, what form is that in? Slope-intercept. And we can't do that. It has to be in standard form. So the first thing we're going to need to remember is, what on earth is standard form? AX plus BY equals C. You cannot have fractions. You cannot have decimals. And if when I just said all of that stuff, you said, oh my goodness, I had totally forgotten that, then do this to study it big time before we take the test. AX plus BY equals C. Can't have fractions, cannot have decimals. So, what should we do? Exactly. Thank you, Jimson. We're going to multiply by 5 all over the place. All 3 terms are getting a 5. So 5y equals, here's the good news, these 5s are going to cancel. And we're just going to have a 1x right there. One more really basic step and we've got it, right? What's the basic step? And then we'll go over and put it on the line that says standard form. Ta-da! There it is. So the big deal is knowing what standard form means. James.
On the test, if we on accident put the x after 5 or after y, we'll see
You would. Yeah, it has to be the AX piece in front. It's like the ABC have to go in order of ABC. Yeah. All right, let's go here. Write the equation of the line with the given slope through the given point. Put your answer in standard form. Oh, look, there's a hint. See that over there? That's telling us we don't start with standard form, which we already know, of course. We know the 2 starting equations for writing lines are slope-intercept and point-slope. Well, pretty obviously, this is point-slope. We can see that right there. There's a point and there's a slope, so away we go. But you have to remember the formula, which is? If you didn't know that, time for another big star right next to that. Have to know that. Have to. Won't be given to you. Let's plug the numbers in. Hey, that's worth points already. Let's go put that on the little line over here. But we're obviously not done, right? So what do you want to do? Yep. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 1/3 is positive 2/3. Again, if you're saying, I'm not going to be able to do those fractions in my head, Cedar Home, don't. Grab a calculator then. Let me show you. If fractions are going to freak you out, I'm going to get you unfreaked right now. There's our negative 2 in parentheses. Parentheses, negative 1 divided by 3, parentheses. Now what do I hit so it'll tell me a fraction? Math number 1. Look at that. No thinking required, you know. So don't let the fact that there are fractions freak you out. All right, I don't think that's standard form yet. So what are you going to do next? Add the 4. Again, you don't want to do that by hand. Well, I've got it right up here, for goodness sake. I don't want to do it by hand. So I've got 2/3 plus 4. Math number 1. enter, and you can get it. But I'm going to go ahead and do the common denominator thing. So we need this in thirds. 4 would be 12 thirds, which of course gives us 14 thirds. We're still not there, but we are so much closer. And most students like to get slope-intercept form before they go to standard. And here's a good idea. That way, we already did this in this problem. So that'll remind you, hey, I made it look like the last problem I was supposed to do. Now all I have to do is the same method. So what would the same method be? Let's do it. Let's get rid of the fraction. And again, the 14 thirds, the 3's are going to cancel on the top and the bottom. Super duper close, right? What's left? Yep. That was a lot of good algebra. You know, we used 3 different forms. We had point slope, slope intercept, and standard form. Excellent. Let's do one more and then we'll call it a day. We have to save some stuff for Monday. Number 9. Write an equation for the line that is parallel to the given line and goes through the given point. Leave your answer in point slope form. Parallel to y equals negative 4x plus 7 and through the ordered pair to negative 3. So help me out. What do you know about parallel lines? Oh, do we know the slope of that line? It's right there, isn't it? Now let's say it wasn't in slope-intercept form. Everybody knows they'd put it in slope-intercept form first, right? Yeah, you want to find that slope, because that's the one we have to use. And they gave us this. So even though it says point slope form over there, kind of a silly hint, we know that's what we have to use, because here's a point and here's the slope. All right, help me out. Left-hand side will say, what are you using for slope? In the parentheses it will say, and then you're going to accidentally put it in slope-intercept form. 2 people out of every class do that every year, and they get done and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. So then the question is, do I have to erase all that stuff? No, just go back a couple of steps and make sure you put this in your blank. Because that's one of the biggest time wasters that happens on this test. You know, people overdo stuff instead of just stopping at the form they're supposed to have. Now this was parallel. Could have just as likely been perpendicular. So what do you know about slopes of perpendicular lines? That's where we're going to stop for today. I'm going to give you a review. When this review was written, well, it was during COVID, and the test was going to fall on a Friday. And do you remember what happened on Fridays last year?
No school.
Well, no, you had school, but, you know, it was all digital.